Welcome to this mini-series brought to you by the Nobles of Palestine Temple number 18, Oasis of Mobile, Desert of Alabama. During this time of recent police brutality and shameless killing of African American men, the vision of illustrious potentate Thomas is to engage several members of the community with one simple question: where do we go from here? We first bring you an introduction with the project chairman, Noble Aldrich Little.
Greetings. My name is Noble Aldrich Little from Palestine Temple number 18, located here in the great city of Mobile, Alabama. It was envisioned by our illustrious potentate Brian Thomas that where do we go from here? What's next for us in our fight for justice and equality? After the George Floyd verdict and after the Ahmaud Arbery verdict, where do we go from here? Or has our struggle ended? Have we achieved what we were looking for? And of course, we all know that answer is no. The answer to our questions is a continued struggle for justice and equality in this country that we live in. Today, you will hear from three great speakers. One, from a civil rights perspective, Noble Derek Bozeman, radio personality on 1380 WAOK, located in Atlanta, Georgia. Great civil rights advocate, great civil rights speaker and motivator of his people. Number two, you will hear from Pastor Everett Thomas, great pastor of New Generations Church, located in Mobile, Alabama. And finally, you will hear from our illustrious potentate, Brian Thomas, our leader of Palestine Temple number 18. But just to put things in perspective, as a mentor of young black men, it is important that number one, that they know that their education is very vital, that they must educate themselves. They must stay so focused on the goals and aspirations that they have set for their lives. Number two, they must understand and know their history, that the history that has been painted for so many of them is not who they are, that there is greatness that lies within each one of them. And number three, they must be leaders within themselves, knowing that in this life they will find themselves as leaders, or they will find themselves people that will be led. And I prefer that they become leaders, that they set the tone for where their life and their generation will go. So what's next for us as a people? Where does our struggle end? And of course, we know it doesn't end. So please take the information that you will hear from these great speakers today, internalize that information, and ask yourself, where do we go next as a people? And where do I fit in this struggle for equality and justice for our people? Thank you for listening and enjoy these great speakers.
Follow us to an in-depth conversation between illustrious potentate Brian D. Thomas, his father, Everett Thomas Jr., along with his brother, Pastor Everett Thomas III.
How important you think the community structure is for our young men today, and with the crimes that we have committed by kids now, 15, 16, 17 years old, they're going away on sentences for the rest of their lives. They'll never see the light of day again for senseless and just unimaginable crime. How important is the community aspect for our kids today?
Yeah, I think it's really sad to see some of the decisions that are being made by young men. It has lifelong consequences. You know, one decision, being at the wrong place at the wrong time, that impacts you. So I think beyond the family structure, there is a responsibility for the community. You know, I remember back in my day, and I'm sure Pop can talk about back in his day even, that when we did something that wasn't right, it got home before we did. You know, and you know, the community, they were, call them what you want to call them, nosy or whatever, but it beat us home, and we were trying to maybe fib our way out of a situation, but they already had the details down to a
It
T.
wasn't no trying. It wasn't no trying.
Yeah, so I think community is everything, and unfortunately, that's changed over the years. Where you don't see that anymore. Where they're neighbors that are reporting what their son or daughters of that particular family have done or doing. Yeah, and then they even had the permission to discipline them.
Yeah.
So you got it from the
That
neighbor.
was a long time ago.
It's a long time ago. So I think community, that's what's missing, is just accountability. People are afraid to say anything as it relates to doing what is right.
But if people neighborhood get involved now, they're afraid of right. If I tell, they may come back and do something to me. So I'm just gonna stay out of it. I didn't see nothing. And that's how things have really changed. Back in the day, your neighbor would say, "Hey, I saw Brian doing this. I got it."
They had it, and then and then he got it.
I got this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I can remember, like you were saying, the structure part of it. And we had chores to do that kept us busy at home. Where if mama was at work and daddy had to work that night shift, we had stuff to do in the house that kept us in the house, cleaning, folding clothes, whatever we had to do, and especially being quiet if he had to go to work that evening. Kids now, they have free roam. They can come and go as they please. It's no structure within the home. So as parents, the three of us parents, how important is that structure? Being able to physically touch your child in the house at night and knowing that he or she is there. Or when we were coming up, we had curfew. I remember the street light, especially
Dark 30.
Once that street light hit, I think I was 5 and I could tell time better than anybody I knew, because I knew once that first buzz went off, I could hear my name, and I had to be at that house when I heard Brian. So how important was that part of it with us coming in?
Yeah, I felt then you should always knew where your kids were. If you say, "Can I go to this house?" I'm expecting you to go to that house. I don't expect you to be over here. I expect you to be here. And time has changed now, where now they have this timeout, and kids got it now. Well, if you don't like it, I'll call the police. And that's one thing I can't understand, because if you call the police on me, then where you gonna sleep, or how you gonna eat? But then the police come and get me and take me to jail because they say child abuse. If they get you outside, they'll beat you all night long, which will be fine. I don't understand. I don't understand that kind.
With your boys and your daughter, how important is knowing whether, and I know Miles is grown and he's trying to make it on his own now, but it has to play in you. Hey, I need to check in. I need to know you're safe and you're okay. So how does that play a part in at your home with your foundation?
I think it's the responsibility of parents to know where their kids are. I mean, kids don't, they will cross the line every time, but if there's no accountability, if there's no discipline, then they will just have a free for all. Think about it. When I'll use a sports analogy, every sport has boundaries. In basketball, once I dribble out of bounds, I can't continue dribbling and go to the basket like I'm, and even dunk. It might be a pretty dunk, but I've stepped out of bounds. And I think oftentimes we, as parents, when our kids step out of bounds, we need to bring some sort of correction to that, so there's not a perpetual cycle. So going back to the community, I think we need to give people in the community, discipline starts at home first, and if we see a kid stepping out of bounds in our community, because that affects everybody, if something's done in the community by somebody, not only affects that family, but that impacts everybody. You think about, from a crime aspect, the property value goes down, and so many other things happen. It's kind of a chain reaction. So I think parents need to realize that they have a responsibility to their own children, you know, and it's a secondary thing where parents in the community are raising your children, but that's that's a parental responsibility. You can't delegate the raising of your kids. That's really on you as a parent.
And I I understand that, I can appreciate a lot of things that you did for me. I'll speak for me coming up. Now I didn't see it then, because then you were just mean.
Okay. It's all right.
you were just mean then, but it showed up later on in life when I started having kids, and they were doing some of the same things I did. I could fall back on something and say, hey, I did that, and I remember what happened to me. So I know the path I need to take for them not to do. I remember wanting to go out and hang out with friends, and having to ask Daddy, can I go here? Can I go do this? No. Never understood why you would tell me no. But looking back at it, those same friends have been incarcerated. They've been put out of home, and I've seen them suspended from school. And I've never been incarcerated. I've never been put out of my house. I've never been suspended from school because we had, like you said, it was consequence. I can remember if I did do something out of bounds, somebody would always go back. I'm not gonna say he was doing nothing, but Brian was with this group of kids that did this. I wasn't gonna be with them no more. I'm quite sure it's the same way with you coming up. We had a certain group of friends that we could hang out with. They were allowed at the house because they had the same values that we had, and they were allowed there. But if you didn't, you couldn't step foot in the yard, much less the front door.
No.
Come there, and just looking at kids now, a lot of the kids now don't have that.
I think it deals with honoring your parents. I think, we had a referential fear of our parents. We reverence them as the authority in our lives, and when you have that, you will be in compliance and not in complaint mode, if I could use that term. So we were more interested in being compliant than complaining because there were consequences to the complaining. And once you dealt with those consequences a few times and you recognize the order of the house, you begin to comply. And you understand that, like you said, as you get older, you might not understand it then, but as we get older, it's like, oh, man, I get it.
You get older and have kids, then you understand.
Yeah. Exactly. Your favorite thing to tell me was just wait a minute, you gonna see. Right. Just wait a minute, and that was, and I mean it worked out. I can see it now why things had to happen the way they had to happen, and it wasn't you being mean. It was either I'm gonna draw this line where you're gonna stay on this side of it. I let you go over here. I can't do nothing about it no more. You're running and you're doing what you want to do, and it's gonna be my way in this house. As long as you're here, you're gonna do it my way.
I think it's all in knowing your kids. You can get to a point. As long as I know you're safe and I can hear your voice, I'm pretty much, and I'm talking about now, right? But right now, I can tell in you all voice if something. You call or I call and I say, "What's up, there?" I'm doing fine. And I hear, I know something. Or Brian, something. Or Amy, I know something. So you have to be in tune with the kids, to know their reaction, their voice, their movement, if something is right. The kids now, it's so difficult because you have a lot of parents that are afraid of the kids. I don't know what he can do. I don't know what she can do. And talk. And it's not all kids. We have some brilliant kids that are doing superbly jobs. They're educated. I mean, I know kids that's getting college degree before they finish high school, which is super. But right now, we talking about the ones who want to go somewhere and do something. It's fine what I'm doing. It's fine if I shoot you, but I don't want to get caught. It don't make no sense. I'm gonna run all over the world, but I'm bad enough to shoot you, but I'm not bad enough to be that. And I think it has a lot to do with education. You have to be educated. You have to be brought up in a home where your parents, your mother, your mother, whoever, is not afraid.
You brought up a point. You said personality. I know three of us have three totally different personalities. So how did you manage those three personalities with us? Because I feel like I'm more the outgoing of the three.
All three of them was different. Third was different. It was something about third that was different. I didn't at the time. I didn't know what it was, but he was just totally different. You was different. You are mine. You are Amy. Amy is different. So I couldn't sit there and raise all you all like third, all you all like Brian. You have to raise you as an individual, and that's what happened.
Was that a challenge for you to raise it?
See, a lot of people don't realize that individuals, you can't raise a whole family as one. 'Cause everybody's different. You know, if I'd have raised you like third, y'all would have probably been preaching too. I guess. I don't know.
I think that there was a standard though that was consistent amongst the three of us.
Yeah.
Even though we had different personalities, there was the rules applied, curfew,
Right.
respect, those type things were foundational, regardless of the difference of our personalities. And I think that, that spilled over into our adulthood, which, is a positive thing. So, yeah, each child is going to require a different set of disciplines. But I think the thing that's unique and that parents should understand is that the household standard is the household standard. I think it was Joshua that said, "As for me and my house,
Right.
we're gonna serve the Lord." So that was a standard that, regardless of who you are, as it relates to this household, that's what we're going to do. So I think that's vitally important that parents put a line in the sand and say, "Hey, if you're gonna remain in this house, if you're gonna remain under the care of me as a parent, then you need to comply with these standards."
Like you were saying about the standard and the raising of the kids with three different personalities. A lot of kids now are in the same house with mixed families. They have different mothers and different fathers, and you have different attitudes you deal with. Parents today may not know exactly how to deal with those different personalities that come up. So I guess I'm wondering. I know with us, Dad said we had different personalities, but we had a standard. We had to live by. We like he said we weren't the model family on the block, but we had a standard. We knew that that name of Everest Thomas or then Jacqueline Thomas meant something in that community. It meant somewhere we went. Everybody knew, hey, you mule boy, you average boy, or you average little brother. That meant something to me, and I had to keep that at a level where I'm not going to do anything dramatic. I'm not saying I was a perfect child, but I'm not going to do anything dramatic that's going to beat me back home. I wasn't going to do anything that was going to beat me back home because it wasn't Brian that was attached to somebody, and they had a standard in the community, and they were looked up and respected to. So I had to have that same level of respect for myself when I went out places, no matter who I was with and what they were doing. I knew better than to be in that place and in that situation. So I say that to say this: the kids today who have gotten themselves into situations they can't get out of, what would be something that we could try to focus that energy to? How could we get them to understand that they have a standard about themselves, or that your name means something you might not know quote unquote who your dad is. You might didn't have that relationship with your dad, but you still have a standard that you need to hold yourself to, and it's not anybody that's doing something that's gonna get you in trouble.
Yeah, I think that you can find a crutch for anything. You can say, "Well, I don't know my daddy, or my mother was this, or my father's this." I mean, you have to be within yourself to have a personality, self-esteem, confidence. You know what you want out of life, regardless of what to go for. You can sit there and say again, "My dad, I don't know my daddy." Well, so what? You don't know your daddy. So what you can do? Sit here and moan and groan for the rest of your life if you don't know your dad and be a failure in life. Instead of getting out there and doing something. Get your education, get you something to do. Get you a job or something to do because there's more jobs out there now. We got Airbus down there. We got altars over there. I mean, it's wide open. So you can do what you need to do for yourself and make yourself a living and be well established.
I know the standard that we had growing up, the three of us had, and to see you and mama go to work and provide for us and give us a lifestyle that we couldn't imagine having any other way. And we try to translate that to our kids now and have the same lifestyle that we had or a little bit better. So what was your relationship like and your growing up like with granddaddy and gunstomach?
Yeah, they pretty much like you are. Well disciplined. Dog 30. I mean, I was like in high school and 12 o'clock. It wasn't no all night. It wasn't that. We had to work. We had chores to do. We had a responsibility. You can't get past responsibility. Uh, responsibility helps you do it. So you have kids, you can say, "Well, I'm not gonna do nothing," but that's your responsibility. You don't pay for that car, that's your responsibility. They can come and take it. So you have to be responsible. And they made sure that we were responsible. And I really appreciate that. That helped me to become who I am now. And I tried to pass it on. And I think we all got the hint.
Yeah, I think, as it relates to, I want to go back and just add a little more to the previous question about a person who grows up without a father. I think we want to be careful. Pop said not to use that as a crutch. And I think there is such thing, though, as what's called the absent father wound. So somebody who grew up not knowing who their father is, there's a void there. And you can continue to live out, which may explain a lot of the behavior or the lack of discipline or anger, because you don't know who you are. You really don't know your identity, and you're trying to piece the pieces together. So I think the acknowledgement of that from whoever's struggling needs to, we need to do that. We need to, they need to acknowledge that, what, I'm angry or I'm outraged because I didn't know my father. But we need to take it a step further. Okay, how do we digress from the outrageousness and from you being depressed from that? And that's a process of learning who you are, and I like to say that your identity is in divinity, your heavenly father. He's a father to the fatherless. And I think there has to be a bridge built for that young man or young woman who has that void to begin the healing process of their hurt heart so that their decisions are not impactful for generations to come. You look at the statistics, everything from murder to teenage pregnancy, there's a common denominator there. Talking young people under the age of 18, there's an absent father. That's not to be ignored, you know. Not to say that everybody who has a father in the home turns out right, but from a majority standpoint, you know, there's an absence, and the single women, they're doing, you know, many are doing a stellar job, you know, in raising their kids, but there's something to be said with the absence of a man, not only in the family but in the community, and the impact that it has on everybody in that setting.
Yeah, but still, you can have a man, a father in the house, and still not have a father.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a big difference in getting disciplined and beating. It's a big difference. Beat somebody, that's beating. I'm talking about when you discipline somebody and you beat somebody, it's totally different.
Next, we'll take a break from this trio to hear from Noble Derek Bozeman, a radio personality from Atlanta, as he gives his perspective on where do we go from here.
All right, first of all, to the brothers of Palestine Temple number 18, thank you for having such an important conversation. The question that Dr. King propounded or asked after all of the protests, after all of the civil rights movement, one of the most profound questions he asked, where do we go from here? And that's the same question that you're asking. So after the George Floyd verdict and after the George Floyd incident, after the protests that exploded across America, what should we as brothers and sisters be about the business of doing? And it's very simple. We should intensify and do more to organize, to mobilize, and at the end of the day, to seek both political, spiritual, and civic power. We've got to operate on all three levels. On a holistic, as a holistic people, we cannot just celebrate our victories politically. Very important that we get those victories politically. We also have to understand we've got to connect one to another. And that's therefore the work that you do in mentoring both young boys and both girls, at being a better man and being a better example for your own family and for your own community. We've got to go internally and externally. When I am as strong as I can be, then the young brother watching me becomes even stronger by watching me. I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. And so we got to be, as the good book said, about our Father's business. And so that simply means we got to live our best lives. And then we got to make sure that we teach others how to do that. And so where do we go as a community? We go to what we know. We go to voter registration. We go to voting out those people that do not serve in our best interest. Georgia just showed us that we can have a quiet revolution just by marching to the ballot box. We elected 2 United States senators. We elected a black man, one of only 2 in the United States Senate. And if you look historically, one of only about 7 who've occupied that seat from right here in Atlanta, and so from right here in Georgia. So we got a mighty work that we can do. We should not get weary in well doing. Know that there will be, unfortunately, other George Floyds. But here's the thing that we also must do is never give up, never retreat, and never run from getting in the streets. Legislation is written in both the streets and in the suites. As a result of George Floyd, we see now the George Floyd federal bill that's being proposed and have a real possibility of passing that will reform the way police interact with us. We've also got to accept some responsibility to know that we cannot, on the side of the road, win an argument with the police. We don't care what it is, take the ticket, take the charge, but then we fight like hell in the courts. And so ours is, as Grandmama and them would say, a charge to keep we have, and we have to keep on moving. And the blueprint has already been laid down. We simply have to be courageous enough to know that just like they did in the 60s, we're not going to be able to shirk our responsibility to be advocates. Coretta Scott King said, our freedom is won by every generation. And so this generation cannot sit down. The succeeding generations cannot sit down. We've got to continue to fight. And the reality of it is we have nothing else better to do but to fight to bring forth a better day for those who come behind us. So, on the real sense, we have to fortify ourselves spiritually for this journey, to strengthen ourselves, to know that we are that called out people. We are that generation that's been called for a time such as this. And we have to stand up because they're playing a game on our back. But if we stand up, then the game is over. And so all we have to do is keep standing up, keep fighting. So that's my message to you. Stay resilient, stay spiritually fortified. Don't be scared. God cannot use a coward soldier. Let's register and use the power that we have now, because there's no guarantee you're going to have that power tomorrow. And let's keep marching onward and upward. It's simply just that simple. And so I appreciate the opportunity to address you. I'm Derek Bozeman, your brother and servant. But at the end of the day, we have nothing better, nothing more revolutionary or rewarding that we can do than to fight to bring into existence a better day for those generations yet unborn. Take care. Peace.
As we return to the final part of this series, the trio closes with a personal, in-depth conversation on the subject of proud parenting.
To be
We were
quiet.
fortunate for our upbringing. I mean, we had, like I said, dad was dad. No matter how you looked at it, dad was dad. I didn't agree with everything he told me I couldn't do then, but I can see why he told me I couldn't do now, because it makes sense now. I'm still here walking among the fruit. I'm still here on this side of the door. I don't have any cases pending against me. I don't have anything like that, and I can see that with my kids. I can't be their friend. I remember one time I told you, Dad, that you were my friend. Daddy, you my best friend. You told me I can't be your friend because I got to be your dad. You'll find friends, but I got to be dad. And I didn't understand it, but you had to pick between the line. I have to raise you and bring you up in a way that you're going to be here 50, 60 years from now. You're going to have these core values instilled in you. You're going to see what it's like to have to sacrifice. You're going to see what it's like to have to work for what you want. Nothing's going to be given to you. I can't be your friend. I got to show you this. I got to show it to you in the way I carry myself, the things that I do, and the way I'm going to put structure in. So I appreciated that. I appreciate it now because it pays off. I know what it's like to get up at 2 o'clock every morning to go to work and be there by 3. I know what it's like to work. I know what it's like to provide for my kids to make sure that they have all of their needs and I can get some of the majority if they want. And they don't give me any trouble. I don't have any trouble out of it. So I can appreciate that from my standpoint.
After it's all said and done, I think all three of you have been through some struggles in life and you came out successful. And that's good. I feel like I've done a good job. There comes a time when you have to let go. Y'all can make it. Maybe just for you can make it. So
With time drawing near for this interview, I'm gonna ask both of you this question: What is your proudest moment of, of us, Dad, and third with you with your kids, or you with me and Dad? What is your proudest moment?
well, my proudest moment was having you all three. That was proud. Third, Brian, and eight. That was three kids. This is the proud moment right here to be on stage and to be on YouTube, Facebook, and all the other books. To be up here with us three. Like I say, it never happened again, and I hope it happens some more. It was a very proud moment to be able to do it. I feel like I've done some success. Everything came out.
Yeah, there are many, and time won't allow us to go through them all. But I think the fact of when you get older, you just kind of look back at everything from. I remember working at Scott Paper Company, and That was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
To have been employed and to provide for your kids and to bring home that Scott paper gift, the Christmas gift every year, that we look forward to. I mean, I think for me, kind of take things for granted, but as you begin to experience life, you begin to reflect and look back and say, man, you know what? I'm really proud of my parents for what they did for us. I mean, what they poured into us at a young age, and you begin to understand maybe some of the difficulties of how they had to navigate through things to provide for us, to discipline us in a fashion that was, was warranted. So, I think as I pause for cause, that's what makes me the most proud. As I look at, you and Amy, to see y'all have kids, you're raising your kids, and you're providing for your kids. Those things just didn't happen. I guess as the big brother, I got a chance to sit in the front row seat. Now that I look back at it and see the process of what it took to get you all, where you are currently. So, I'm proud. I'm proud that, I remember Mom told me that we were waking up going to Sunday school. I didn't know what a Sunday school was, but, at that particular season, just to see my parents' love for the church, I didn't understand all that. But as you get older, as you're serving in ministry, you see the vital role and importance of the church and the family. So I'm proud that my family, generationally, not just my parents, but my grandparents, my great grandparents, they all had a love for the Lord and for the church, and that makes me proud. And the fact that I can do that for my generation now, my kids, extremely proud.
I think the proudest moment I had with you two was Dad. I remember being at Irvington, at the track at Irvington, and I remember I did that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to race cars like my dad, because that was the coolest thing, that I could go to school and tell anybody my dad has a race car. But I remember getting there, and I remember seeing the first time I can remember seeing you win a race. And I remember when you won, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be my dad. That was like, y'all were my superheroes. So I wanted to be dad, and I wanted to be third, but I wanted to be dad in that instance. That I wanted to be able to race. I wanted to be able to work and provide and have a house and have a wife, kids, and a dog, and be able to be dad. And then with you third, it was when I was playing basketball with St. Mary. That first year, I don't think I scored a point. But I remember after every game, if you were off that Saturday, we went and played ball. We played from the time I got done at a game till we had to go home. We couldn't see no more. We played. But every game, you would always say, I got Brian. And every game, you would make me, I had to guard the best player out there. You would give me the ball to shoot. If I didn't want to shoot, still got to shoot. Got to go to the basket. Got to do this. And it showed me that you had enough confidence in me to be there, no matter just off the court. Just through life, you were going to be there. If you told me to do it, I could do it. And that made me feel some kind of way, because you could have picked anybody out there, but your first pick, I got my little brother. And I'm going to keep you with me, and I'm going to make you believe in yourself like I believe in you. So that was my proudest moment with y'all too, and I really do appreciate that. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in and being with us today while we did this. It meant a lot to me to have my dad and my brother with me for this. This is our first taping of it. So that means a lot to me. I thank both of y'all. I thank you for everything you did for us coming up. Thank you for being there for me coming up and keeping me out of trouble when I was seen to go the wrong way. So I appreciate both of y'all. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We soldiers, man. Let's stop hurting each other and let's get it right, man. Today is the day we're gonna stand up for our community, man.
If we could do this, we could do more. We just gotta continue on pushing and don't give up.